Most people will stop interactions once they spot the first red flag. But what if it was the first drop of blood?
You keep talking, man, and you shut the fuck up.
My great aunt had a thing for this guy. The problem was that the guy happened to be married. That little detail didn't stop my great aunt. So what did she do? Well, she killed the man's wife. Apparently, he went off to work early one morning. She broke into the house and killed the woman by sawing off her head. Then she cleaned up the mess, buried the body in the backyard, tidied the house up, cooked dinner, and waited for the man to come home. And when he got home, he noticed that the house was a bit different.
Wait a minute!
Out comes my great aunt to greet him. This was the first time the man had met my great aunt. And what did this man do? Well, he thought it was a great gesture of love. They called the police and he covered up for my great aunt's crime. Says he did it. He gets arrested and spends a couple years in prison and then bribes his way out. He moves into his old home with my great aunt and they had a happy marriage for over 40 years. Later, until he passed away from natural causes. When people say that things were so much simpler back then, is just something I absolutely do not believe. Can you imagine all the backdoor dealing of murders, people getting killed, evidence going missing that we just don't know about?
I'll make that deal. How about you bitch? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
This man walked into a home right after work and just to find a stranger in his home who was simply obsessed with him, and he found it to be a great gesture of love. I don't know if that man's sick or he was just that miserable with the woman he was married to. It's baffling to me that we can hear stories about this years ago, but if we were to hear anything remotely close to this today, those people would be in an insane asylum and sitting in prison forever. What's also quite interesting about this secret is that the gentleman volunteered himself to go to prison over a woman he didn't know. If that's not true love, I don't know what love is. Or is that just pure insanity? And then once out of prison, goes back to his house and that same crazy ass aunt is in there and they live happily ever after? That's what makes this confession story so wild. It's so unheard of today that we can have somebody just murder a random person because they're obsessed with somebody they've never met and just planned on making it work at that very moment by tidying up the house, cooking for that person, and being like, hey, I'm here for you. By the way, your wife's dead. And you're just like, I love your commitment. Yeah, I'll go to prison for you. What?
It's insane, right?
What I'm actually curious about more in this story is what time period this confession takes place in. Because this man was able to bribe his way out of prison and then go back to his old home where this crazy bitch is at and live happily ever after and die from natural causes. I'd be sleeping every night with one eye open because this woman just willy-nilly walked into my own home and murdered my wife.
Open when I'm sleeping, one eye.
If someone murdered your significant other, would you then praise them for getting rid of a problem and falling in love with them? Would that be your mindset? Or would you call the police? But I also want you to think about that question in the context of living potentially in the early 1900s. And if you're into family confessions like that, they're just messy, here's another one. Back in the 1960s, my grandmother shot and killed my grandfather with a shotgun in front of their 16-year-old daughter, my aunt. Apparently, grandmother felt that she was in a bad situation. Grandfather was 32 years older than her. She was his secretary before they were married, and their marriage had been very unhappy. So she cleared it ahead of time with the small town sheriff's office, put my aunt in a room as a witness, and blew a hole in his chest. Never faced any legal consequences. My mom, who was only 5 at the time, found out a few years later from a nosy neighbor. This is exactly what I was talking about in the previous confession before, that you were able just to spit in your hand, shake the hand of the person across from you, and have a murder pact deal done, which is so crazy. And what's wild about it is she had the pact with the sheriff's office. The goddamn police were in on the murder and the cover-up. Police have not changed. They're still the same today.
Police! Police! Help! Police! Help!
She was unhappy while he was taking care of her during a much simpler time. So she decided to put a shotgun to his chest and murder the man and then use the daughter as a witness? Come on. You can't tell me things were much simpler back then. You can't. If you're talking about the simple part is everything got done with verbal agreements and handshakes, Sure, absolutely. I believe you. Now, if you're telling me that this isn't a complex secret and situation just the way it's told, well, I would have to disagree with you there, because that tells me that the police department helped bring him to the location, set up the location where it was easy for cleanup to make the man disappear, and we don't know if he was buried or not, but I'm assuming they made him disappear.
And the best part of this plan is, no one can stop me.
And if she was free from legal consequence of murder in front of her own child, Jesus Christ, I'm so glad I don't live back then. Because someone could lure me behind the shed and be like, hey man, I got something to show you. Pop me in the chest.
Oh no.
But again, these are family secrets, and I know you have some, as do I. And if you're willing to share yours, put it below or fill out a form, and be sure to like, subscribe, and come back for more.